For 23 long years, Princess Laurana waited. Waited for the tiny silver band on her wrist to glow. Every child on her planet, Yavatra, was born with a soulmate band. When two true soulmates met, their bands would shine brightly. Some found their soulmates at school, some during festivals, and some by chance in the stars. But Laurana's band stayed cold, dull, and lifeless. As a royal daughter, it was even worse. People whispered behind her back, "She's cursed," they said. Even the universe rejects her. She must be broken inside. She smiled in front of them. But inside, her heart was heavy. Every year, the royal court arranged events, galas, gatherings, alliances with other species. They brought noble males from other planets, blue-skinned warriors, golden-haired kings, even mind-readers from distant stars. But none of them triggered her band. Not a single flicker, not even warmth. She sat in her golden room many nights, staring at the cold band. On her wrist, "Maybe I'm not meant to love," she whispered once. "Maybe I will rule alone." The palace healer once told her gently, "Princess, when the right one arrives, your soul will know," but the words meant little after so. Many years of silence, her mother, Queen Eliana, tried to stay strong. But even she showed worry now. Without a bonded partner, Laurana would have no heir. And without an heir, the throne's future was uncertain. Many nobles offered ideas. Why? Not remove the band and choose someone politically strong. But Yavatrian law was clear: soulmate bands could not be removed. And only true bonding would allow marriage. Then came the message from Earth. The humans had agreed to join the Galactic Harmony Summit. It was the first time Earth would attend as a full member. Humans were still new in the galaxy, strange, unpredictable, and fascinating. The Queen saw an opportunity, let the human ambassador join the royal reception. She said, "Who knows? Maybe fate is waiting there." Laurana sighed, brushing her silver hair behind her ear. She had heard this too many times. Another gathering, another round of hopeful stares, another disappointment waiting at the end. Still, she dressed in her ceremonial robe. Golden lines flowed like rivers across her silk gown. The band on her wrist looked polished, but still lifeless. The grand hall shimmered with starlight from the glass dome. Species from 20 planets stood in honor. The Queen announced each guest as they entered. Laurana stood beside her mother, smiling politely, until sudden silence fell across the room. A new presence walked in. Tall, confident, but not boastful. He had dark hair, a scar on his cheek, and calm eyes. He wore no crown, no glowing armor, no strange powers, just a simple dark uniform with Earth symbol on his chest. He gave a respectful bow to the Queen, and as his eyes met Laurana's, her wrist burned. She gasped and looked down. The band that had never glowed now pulsed with golden light, bright, warm, alive. The crowd gasped. Whispers rushed through the room like wind. "It's glowing. It's him." A human. Laurana could not breathe for a moment. The light of her band matched his. He looked down at his own wrist, confused, then back at her, puzzled. "What's happening?" he asked quietly, and Laurana, her voice shaking, replied, You triggered my band." The Queen stood frozen. The court fell silent. Even the ambassadors stared in disbelief. The soulmate band had chosen a human for the first time in Yavatrian history, and everything was about to change. Commander Jacob Riaz only wanted to make a good impression. He had spent weeks practicing how to greet alien queens, how to walk slowly, how to bow without looking weak, how to smile politely without showing too many teeth. After all, humans were still new in the galactic stage, still seen as rough, too emotional, or primitive. He never expected a glowing alien bracelet to nearly blind him, not when he walked into the royal hall. Not when he locked eyes with the strange, silver-haired woman, and certainly not when his wrists started to glow too. He froze. People stared. Whispers filled the air like smoke. His translator pin picked up the alien words. Bonded, chosen, impossible. He looked around, thinking maybe someone else stood behind him, but no, every alien in the room was now staring at him, and at the beautiful alien woman whose band glowed the same golden fire. She was staring at him too. With wide violet eyes full of shock, he raised his hand slowly. The light flickering gently like firelight. What is this? He whispered, mostly to himself. The Queen of Yavatra stepped forward, tall and graceful. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were sharp as knives. You have triggered the royal band, she said. Do you know what that means? Jacob blinked, trying to stay calm. No. But I'm guessing it's not a handshake. A low chuckle came from somewhere in the room. But the Queen didn't smile. You've activated a soulmate bond, something sacred to our people. He looked again at the glowing band on his arm. How did this happen? It wasn't a device. It wasn't technology. It felt like it had always been there, just asleep. The girl stepped closer, the one with violet eyes. She was taller than he expected, with soft markings like silver threads. On her skin, she looked both amazed and afraid. I've waited my whole life, she said softly. My band never reacted to anyone. Not even once. I didn't mean to do anything, Jacob said quickly. I'm just here as a diplomat. I wasn't trying to ruger anyone. She gave a small smile, nervous but kind. You didn't try. That's the point. That's the point. The Queen clapped her hands once, and guards stepped forward, not to arrest, but to escort. You both will be taken to the crystal chamber, she said, for testing. And confirmation, weight testing. Jacob said, raising a brow. I just got here. The Queen didn't argue. This is no longer a visit. This is destiny. Inside the crystal chamber, soft lights danced across the walls. Lorana and Jacob were seated across from each other. A priestess touched both their bands. Golden waves spread through the air like ripples in water. The bond is real, she said, bowing her head in awe. More than real. It is rare. Extremely rare. Lorana looked down, then met his eyes again. I know this is strange. Maybe unfair. Jacob leaned forward slightly, voice steady. I don't know you. But I don't think fate makes mistakes. A screen in the chamber, lit up with images of Jacob's DNA and Lorana's energy signature. They were syncing, just slightly. But more than any human and alien ever had before. It's not just a feeling, the priestess said. Your souls recognize each other. Jacob sat back in his chair, hand over his glowing band. So this wasn't just politics anymore. He came for peace talks. But left that room with something no treaty could explain. A bond that even time and stars couldn't fake. Outside, the galactic news spread fast. Human commander triggers Yavatrian princess's soulmate band, first interspecies soul. Bond confirmed. Is Earth compatible with royal blood? Jacob didn't care about the headlines, but he couldn't stop thinking about her eyes. And the way the light of the bond made her smile just a little brighter. Something deep inside him whispered, you've just stepped into something far bigger than you know. And he wasn't wrong. Lorana sat alone in her moonlit garden that night. The flowers didn't smell sweet anymore. The stars above didn't look magical anymore. Everything had changed. Because of him, a man from a world no one expected. A human who had done something no one ever could. He triggered her soulmate band, and now she didn't know what to feel. Joy, fear, hope, or heartbreak waiting to happen. Inside the palace, her mother, Queen Eliana, paced slowly. Her crown sat beside her, forgotten on a golden table. Her advisors had left the chamber. Only her, Lorana, and the human sat in silence. Jacob stood tall, even when confused, even when outnumbered, even when unsure. That alone impressed the queen, but she was not here to be impressed. She was here to protect her daughter, her people, her throne, Commander Reyes. She began, voice sharp. "You may not understand the weight of what's happened." "I didn't come to start anything," Jacob said calmly. "I was just sent here to speak for Earth." "You did more than speak," the queen replied. "You awakened something ancient. Something sacred." Jacob looked down at his band, still faintly glowing. "I don't even know what this thing is," he admitted. "But I didn't fake it. I didn't force it. It just happened." Lirana stayed quiet, sitting beside her. "Mother," her fingers touched the glowing band gently. She had dreamed of this moment since childhood, but never like this. Not with pressure, not with cameras outside. Not with her mother's eyes full of worry. The queen finally spoke again. This time, softer. "On Yavatra, soul bands decide more than love. They decide fate. Royalty must bond. It's the law. The throne demands it." Jacob's jaw tightened. "So, what are you saying?" "You have two choices," the queen said without blinking. "You may accept the bond and begin the sacred path with Lirana. You will stay here and prepare to rule beside her as prince consort, and if I say no," Jacob asked, voice low. "Then," the queen said slowly, "you will leave within 72 hours. The bond will be severed through sacred fire, and Lirana will never bond again." Lirana gasped softly, her heart twisting. She had hoped her mother wouldn't say that. But she knew the law was ancient and strict. Jacob looked at Lirana, his voice gentler. "Now, is this what you want?" "I don't know what I want," she whispered. "I waited my whole life for this band to glow. But now that it has, it comes with a cost." Jacob nodded. He understood this wasn't some romance story. This was politics, bloodlines, traditions, and galaxies watching. The queen stood and walked toward him. "Don't mistake our traditions as cruelty," she said, "but my daughter carries more than just her own future." Jacob left the throne room that night with a heavy heart. He walked past guards, glowing halls, and quiet servants. All of them bowed. Not to him, but to the glowing band on his wrist. He didn't sleep that night. Instead, stood at the edge of the sky bridge, looking down at the endless glowing city of Yavatra. So alien, but so beautiful, and somehow, deep in his chest, that glowing warmth pulsed again. He closed his eyes and whispered, "Why me?" Back in her chamber, Lirana held her pillow close, tears in her eyes. She had seen thousands of faces, shaken thousands of hands, smiled at hundreds of noble suitors. But none of them made her heart race like the human did. None of them looked at her like she was just a person, not a princess. She clutched her wrist tightly. The band was glowing still, but now it felt like a flame. Without air, the next day would bring Jacob's decision, and with it, her entire future, or the end of everything she had waited for. The explosion hit before the sun even rose. Guards were thrown across the hallway. Fire lit the royal garden. Smoke poured through the crystal windows, and sirens echoed through the sky domes. Jacob was already on his feet, body moving faster than thought. Old instincts took over. He grabbed a fallen guard's blaster and pushed open the chamber doors. "Protect the princess!" Someone shouted, but he wasn't waiting for orders. He ran toward danger, toward the fire, toward her. In the middle of the smoke and sparks, Lirana stood surrounded 3 attackers dressed in dark cloaks, symbols of the purest faction marked. Their weapons, a radical group that believed no alien should ever bond with a human. Lirana backed away slowly, holding a staff in one hand. She wasn't weak. She had trained in palace defense arts, but she knew one mistake could be her last. One of the attackers raised a blaster aiming straight at her chest. Then Jacob burst through the smoke like a storm. His voice roared. Get away from her. He tackled the attacker full force, knocking him across the floor. Another enemy turned to fire. But Jacob rolled and fired first. The blast struck his enemy in the leg, dropping him instantly. The third tried to escape. Jacob charged, grabbed his cloak, and slammed him into a marble pillar. Silence followed, broken only by Laurana's sharp breathing. Jacob turned to her. Are you hurt? No, she breathed. But how did you? He looked down at his own hands, shaking from the adrenaline. I don't know. It just felt like I had to reach you. Laurana touched her wrist. The band glowed so bright now, her voice shook. You risked your life for me? You didn't even think twice. I was a soldier once, Jacob said, eyes still scanning the hall. But this was different. He looked at her not like a warrior, not like a princess, just two people caught in something much bigger than them. Later, in the healing chamber, the queen entered without her crown. She looked at Jacob with careful eyes. You saved my daughter, she said quietly. Jacob didn't answer. He didn't need to. You were not trained for this place, for our politics, our world, but you ran toward danger like it was home. Laurana stood beside him. He didn't do it for the throne. She said, he did it for me. The queen sighed deeply, as if releasing years of fear in one breath. Maybe the band knows something we do not, for the first time. She sat with them, not above them. She asked about Earth, about Jacob's past, his battles, his losses, his pain, his honor. Jacob told stories of rain-soaked fields, of friends lost to war, of carrying hope even when there was no reason left. Laurana listened with her hand resting close to his, not touching, but close, and she realized something new. The bond wasn't just glowing because of fate. It was glowing because of choice. Later that night, under the moon trees in the quiet garden, Laurana spoke. Her voice soft like starlight. I know pressure is too much. You don't have to choose me. Jacob turned, the stars reflecting in his eyes. I never asked for this, he said honestly. But I can't walk away from it either. She looked down. I always thought when my band finally glowed, it would feel magical. Jacob stepped closer and, does it? She smiled sadly. No, it feels real. And that's scarier. He gently took her hand for the first time. Their bands hummed together warm. Steady, alive. It feels real to me too, he whispered. And maybe that's more powerful than magic at that moment. The bond between them wasn't just fate. It was forged through fire, danger, and choice. Not a fairy tale, but something far stronger. And outside the garden walls, rebels planned their next move, because not everyone in the galaxy wanted a human bonded to a princess. But Jacob and Laurana didn't care. They had just passed their first test, and many more were coming. The throne room was full. Hundreds of nobles, soldiers, priests, and reporters filled every space. Cameras floated silently, waiting to capture one moment, one word. One decision. At the center stood Jacob Reyes alone. No armor, no medal, no crown. Just a human man in a dark uniform, with a glowing band on his wrist that had shaken a kingdom. Laurana watched from the royal balcony. Her hands were folded tightly. In her lap, her heart beat louder than the trumpets that had welcomed guests. Everyone waited for his answer, but only she waited for the truth behind it. Jacob looked at the queen first, then the crowd, then up at Laurana, and finally, he spoke calmly. Clearly, I didn't come here looking for love, he began. I didn't expect my life to be changed by a glowing bracelet. He raised his arm, the band still warm, but I can't ignore this anymore. The room leaned forward. Even the wind outside seemed to stop. I've seen what power can do, he said. I've fought in wars. I've buried brothers. I've carried medals that meant nothing, but this bond. This means something. He looked at Laurana. Again his voice softened. I'm not choosing a throne. I'm choosing her." Gasps filled the room. The queen closed her eyes for a moment, then stood, walking slowly to Jacob's side. She raised her voice. "Let the stars witness this day, by choice, not by force. The human has accepted the sacred bond." She turned to the nobles. "Let all who speak against it remember this was no accident. This is fate confirmed by fire." Jacob stepped aside as Laurana entered the center floor. They faced each other, and together they touched their bands. The glow spread into the air like golden smoke, swirling into shapes only they could feel. But behind the beauty was a secret no one saw. Something Jacob hadn't told even Laurana yet. The palace doctors had pulled him aside hours earlier, their faces pale, their scans shaking in their hands. "This bond isn't just emotional," they had warned. "It's changing you. Your cells are shifting." Jacob had stared at the screen in silence. Human DNA. And something else, something ancient, glowing in the core of his blood. "You might not survive full fusion," the doctor whispered. "Or you might become something completely new." Jacob had thanked him and told no one. Because today wasn't about fear, it was about choice. Laurana took his hand as they stood before the temple priestess. The ritual was short, but the meaning behind it was deeper than any crown or title. "You are now soul-bound," the priestess said. "Your lives are no longer separate. Your pain, your joy, your future shared." The galaxy watched live. Some cheered, some panicked. Some called it dangerous, some called it beautiful. But none could deny what had happened. For the first time in recorded history, a human had bonded with an alien royal, by fade tanned by heart. Later that night, alone on the sky balcony, Jacob sat quietly, holding a glass of alien fruit wine. Laurana stepped beside him, silent for a long time. "When you said you chose me," she whispered, "did you mean it? Or was it the band talking?" Jacob turned to her. His voice was quiet but firm. "I don't care what the band says. I care about what I feel when I'm near you." Laurana leaned into him gently. "For someone who came from war, you speak like a poet." He chuckled softly. "I've seen too much not to recognize something pure when it's in front of me." The night wind brushed past them. Their bands pulsed softly in rhythm. And even the stars seemed to blink a little brighter, but deep in the city's shadows. A ship was preparing for launch. A rebel message flashed across encrypted networks. The bond must be broken, even if it means killing them both. He could hear her heart beat now, not through a stethoscope, not through tech, through the bond. Through something deeper. Jacob sat in the royal observatory, his eyes staring at stars, but his body wasn't still. His hands trembled, his breath was too shallow. And the glowing band on his wrist was no longer just warm. It was burning. Doctors rushed in, scanning him again. One of them gasped softly. "His cells are evolving." Laurana was at his side in seconds. She dropped to her knees beside the bed. "Jacob, Jacob, talk to me." He opened his mouth, no words, only flashes of gold behind his eyes, images he didn't understand. Places he'd never seen, temples, stars, faces of other bonded souls, memories that didn't belong to him, but now lived inside him. One of the priest healers whispered, "It's the final phase. The deep merging, but no human has ever gone this far." Another added, "He might not survive it." Laurana stood, trembling. "Then stop it, do something." "We can't," the priest said softly. "It's between the bond and his soul now." Jacob lay motionless, his band glowing brighter than ever. And Laurana, helpless for the first time in her life, did something she had never done in public. She wept. She wept for the man who had chosen her. Not because of law or power, but because he saw her. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I never wanted this to hurt you." Then she did something unthinkable. She unclipped her royal symbol and placed it beside him, and gently she leaned forward and placed her wrist band glowing against his heart. For a moment, nothing. Then, his body jerked. Once, then again, golden lines spread from his chest like veins of light. His eyes opened wide, glowing gold, then dimmed to normal. He gasped, sat up, held his chest. Lirana reached out in fear, but he took her hand. Gently, "I'm here," he whispered. "I thought I was falling into fire." "But your voice brought me back." The priest stared in awe. He stabilized himself through her willpower. Through the strength of the bond, later, Jacob stood before the mirror alone. But what he saw wasn't just him. His eyes had a faint shimmer now. His skin felt tougher, more in tune with light and sound. His senses sharper, his muscles quicker to react. And deep inside, something ancient pulsed quietly. Not alien. Not human. Both Lirana entered slowly, holding a datapad. "Are you? Still you?" Jacob looked at Horelli. Looked. "I'm still me," he said softly. But more than I was. They sat on the edge of the balcony. Stars above, silence between them. Finally, Lirana asked, "Do you regret bonding with me?" Jacob chuckled, low and warm. "I regret not kissing you the day we met." Her cheeks flushed lavender, and she laughed softly. "You were too busy being confused." He nodded. "Still am, but I've never been more sure of who I want." Beside me, they leaned in finally. No words, and kissed beneath the twin moons. But peace would not last long. Far from the palace, a signal was sent. Encrypted. Ruthless. Final. "The human has changed too much," the rebel message said. "He's no longer safe. Eliminate him before the union spreads." And in the shadows of the holy mountains, a cold-eyed assassin prepared her weapons, not for power, not for money, but to kill the man who made a soulmate band glow across species. The galaxy was about to learn, you can't stop what was written. In two hearts, even if one of them used to be human, she came dressed as a temple guest. Robes clean, face kind, hands folded. No one noticed the hidden weapon in her sleeve. No one knew her name, but she had only one goal: kill the human before dawn. Outside the palace, lights danced in the air. Music filled the royal gardens. It was the night of the soul union ceremony. The moment when two bonded souls would become one in the eyes of all galaxies. Inside, Jacob adjusted his collar awkwardly. "I still don't know which side of this robe goes on top." Lirana laughed. Softly, stepping close to fix it. "You look perfect," she whispered. "You look like someone I waited for." Even before I was born, their bands glowed like twin suns, soft, warm, steady. Guests from dozens of worlds had gathered to witness the impossible. A human and alien princess, bonded not by law, but by love, but behind one pillar, near the ceremony altar. The assassin knelt in silence, eyes locked on Jacob. She had trained for years, no mistakes, no fear. She waited for one clear shot, 1 second when no one would see. Then, something happened that had never occurred in her training. Jacob turned and looked right at her, his eyes locked onto hers, calm, knowing. Unafraid, the bond had warned him. He didn't know how, but he knew she was the threat. Lirana saw his expression change. "What is it?" Behind the third pillar, he said quietly, "Don't react. Just trust me." Jacob stepped forward alone, before the guests. He raised both hands as if to greet the crowd. But his eyes never left the assassin. She pulled the weapon, fast, deadly. But Jacob moved faster. A golden energy surged through his arm. The weapon melted in her grip before she could fire. She screamed. Guards rushed in, but Jacob held up a hand. "Stop," he said firmly. "She came to kill me. But not because she hates me. She fears what our bond represents." The assassin stared at him, confused. "You should hate me. Why don't you?" Jacob stepped closer. "Because I know what fear does," he said softly. "It eats hearts. It blinds truth. But it doesn't win." The queen, watching from above, stood slowly. Her voice rang out. "Let this night be remembered not for violence, but for change." She waved her hand. "Let her live. Let her see what this bond creates." The assassin dropped to her knees, defeated, and strangely moved. She had never seen power used to spare a life before. It felt like a different kind of strength, one she couldn't fight. The ceremony began again. Lyrana and Jacob stood beneath the starlight tree. Priests chanted ancient words, but no one heard them. Everyone's eyes were on the two hands now joined together. Their bands fused into one color brighter than the sky above. A single glow, pulsing like a heartbeat. The priest raised her staff. "From this night onward, let all knows is not the end. This is the beginning." Cheers filled the air. The universe shifted, and somewhere across unknown stars, other soulmate bands began to glow, ones that had been silent for centuries. A hidden signal echoing across galaxies. Love is bigger than species, bigger than planets, bigger than fear. Years passed, and Jacob and Lyrana ruled side by side, not as king and queen but as partners. As bonded souls, they opened peace routes, ended long wars, and raised children whose laughter echoed through halls once filled with silence. Some said their story was legend, others said it was luck. But those who saw it, those who felt it, they knew it was something far deeper. It was a bond forged not by fate, but by choice. And in every corner of the galaxy, it reminded people no matter where you're born or what world shaped you, a soulmate might still be waiting, and when they arrive, the band will glow forever.